boy, Jake Spavital has been a huge lift for this Baylor team. And it's credit to everyone, right? It's credit to Dave Aranda for turning this around. It's credit to the players, credit to everyone on the staff. You know, when I said the hottest coach on the staff, I almost immediately said Keenan Hall for what he's done in the recruiting game as the associate head coach for the Bears. But you can't argue with the golden touch that Jake Spavital has had. And it took a couple weeks, as we said it would. I said it on the show. It's going to take a couple weeks. And now this offense is firing on all cylinders. Now, that is going to bring some suitors, okay? FAU just fired their head coach today, Tom Herman, yesterday, Monday. They fired Tom Herman. Jake Spavital's got head coaching experience. The record wasn't that great, but he's a guy who's had successful offenses at every stop. Is that a place that looks at him? That was my initial thought. And then I saw some things on Twitter. I'm seeing it from some of the OU burners. I think my guy Travis Roeder had a comment on it as well. And that is that the University of Oklahoma is going to be looking for an offensive coordinator. And if they're not also looking for a head coach, then they'll really be hot on the trail of whoever the hottest name is at OC. And right now, Jake Spavital would be a slam dunk pick. And what's going on up at Oklahoma in their first year in the SEC is not good. Not good at all offensively. If only they could play my Maine Black Bears every week. But they can't. And so it's led to some pretty dismal numbers. They've obviously had some quarterback shuffling. The Jackson Arnold thing was not really working. They didn't like the way Seth Littrell was running it. They fired him. It's now someone named Joe John Finley who's running that offense. And it's been one of the worst in the SEC. In fact, they are 15th out of 16 teams in touchdowns scored. They're 14th in rushing offense. They are last in yards per rush. They are last in yards per play. They are last in total yards, and they are last in total offense. The bottom of the barrel in the SEC. But boy, at least you don't have all those 11 a.m. games in the Big 12. Oh, wait, you do. And you got some Friday and Thursday nights mixed in there. And your offense stinks. It just means more, doesn't it? It has been mostly bust, not a lot of boom in that Oklahoma offense this year. Meanwhile, look at Baylor, and it's this offense that has really catapulted the turnaround. In this 4-game winning streak, they're averaging over 47 points per game. That's the top in the conference in that span. And when we look at just conference games, when Jake Spavital really kind of got this thing going, and Sawyer Robertson was in for all of them, in the Big 12 conference this year, in their conference games, they are third in rushing yards per game, 192. That's a huge jump from last year. Fourth in passing offense, 257 per game. Second in total offense and second in scoring offense, 37.6 points per game. Just a hair behind those Colorado Buffaloes. So all those things, specifically the rushing part of it, that OU has really, really struggled in this year, Baylor has excelled. And they are just wearing teams out the last few weeks, specifically on the ground. And I talked about it coming into this year. Baylor was, how many teams did we have in the Big 12 last year? 14. Baylor was 13th out of 14 last year in running the football. They were barely over 100 yards per game. They were thanking their blessings every day that BYU was in the conference and rushing for like 80 yards a game. And I said, one of the big things, the most impressive things that Jake Spavital can do is he can come in and he can turn around a run game like that. He did it at Cal in 2023. They went from dead last in rushing yards per game to fourth in the Pac-12 in rushing yards per game in a pretty good year for the Pac-12 in 2023. There's your blueprint. OU, who again is 14th in rushing offense and last in yards per rush. You can use a guy like Jake Spavital. Now, is that an enticing offer for Jake Spavital? I think that's an interesting question at this point. Obviously, if you're looking across the history of college football, most coaches are not going to turn down Oklahoma for Baylor. That's just the way it is. But in this situation right now, Jake's got a good thing going at Baylor. He's had a lot of one-year stops here, and it is an absolute pressure cooker at OU. And one thing that was a gamble for Jake Spavital coming into Baylor this year was the job security of his head coach. Even if he had a good year, it might not be enough. The coach might still have been fired with the way that Dave Aranda was on the hot seat. And I say was because it's just announced this past weekend that he's coming back in 2025. Now, if they go 3-9 in 2025, is he fired? Probably. That's not good. But you've got a coach in Brent Venables who, even though he has a better win percentage than Dave Aranda has at this stop, he is very much on the hot seat. And that is not going to be a fun situation to go into. And I don't know that Jake Spavital wants to do that 2 years in a row. And the other thing you got to remember is Spav does have some head coaching experience. And so what I mean by that is if he has another heater next year and they're scoring 35 to 45 points a game next year, and they have a heck of a team, which Baylor could well have with all their weapons coming back, he could be a head coach in 2026 rather than just moving up the ladder a little bit as the OC at OU in 2025. But if this thing goes belly up at OU next year and he doesn't even really get a chance to implement the offense that he's hoping to run with the Sooners, and they don't even get that opportunity and get that momentum, then you could be out of a job again because the head coach is getting fired. So yeah, Oklahoma should make a real push. I'm serious. They should. They should make a push at Spavital for what he's been doing this season. But I'm not as worried as I would normally be in the vacuum of my OC at Baylor's having a really good year. And oh yeah, Oklahoma needs an OC as well. I wouldn't be as worried as I would be in years past. But maybe that's just me. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Are you afraid that Jake Spavital might leave Baylor? Do you think OU is going to give him an offer he can't refuse? Drop that down in the comments. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network part of your daily routine. We have got you covered with the most Baylor Bears athletics coverage of any outlet that's not directly tied into Baylor University. So if you want more of that, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and sick 'em.